Okay, we're solving these equations, but now we don't use this because we have parentheses within the equation. So we turn the page to the back side, and let's read up on what we do about parentheses in an equation. Okay, there's block and not blocked. Now, if your parentheses has a power outside the parentheses, you're blocked, so you do not use the rainbows. So what you do is you first rewrite the equation with h to the second without the parentheses. So we remove the parentheses from the equation and we put h to the second. Now it's going to have a 9 in front of it. It's going to have a 4 being added to it, and then equals 31. And from there we put h to the second equals, just like it says, h equals. And then we make this table over here. And we put two equations because that's where we bring back the x minus 3. Okay? Now, it's just like you solve an x second x equation. You dot the variable. You undo the plus first if there is a plus or minus. And 31 minus 4 is 27. Okay? Then you have a dotted number that's not a 1, so you divide by 9. And I divide 27 by 9. Okay? That's 3. So it's 3. So h to the second equals 3. Now I need to find the square root of 3. To find that number times itself, that's 3. Okay? So you go second, and you hit this key here because that's where your square root's at. The fourth key up, not the one above it. Okay? Not the caret key. 3, and that's 1.73. Now I bring this over here because we can be equal to 1.73 or negative 1.73, and then I dot the 1 and put a 1 and dot it, and then I go from there. So I add 3. So 1.73 plus 3 is 4.73, and I have a 1 as my dot, so I don't need to divide. It's 4.73 over here. Okay. Now here I add the 3 to negative 1.73. Then add 3, and that's 1.27, okay? And I don't need to divide, okay? That's my answer. Okay? Those are the two answers. Next one. Again, the second power is here, so the block is on. So you rewrite the equation with h to the second. Put a 4 in front of it. Now, you don't have a plus or a minus after that second power. Okay, so you just go equals 16. And then you're going to get h to the second equals, and then h equals. But don't forget your table. You really need your table to bring back the x minus 2 expression, because that's what you're taking out to make the equation simpler, but then you have to bring it back. So then I dot the x, the h, and circle it. And I don't have to add or subtract. I can go right to my division operation. And 16 divided by 4 is 4, so we're going to put that down here, and then we'll find the square root of 4. What times itself is 4? It's 2. Okay, so again, we could be equal to 2 or negative 2. So we dot the x. And then we plus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, and we don't need to divide by 1. X equals 4. Okay, plus 2, plus 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Okay, and we don't need to divide by 1, so x equals 0. Okay, next problem. The power's there outside, so you cannot use rainbows. It's blocked. So you rewrite the equation with h to the second. So you got h with the second power, a 7 in front, and then we have a minus 3 equals 11. And from there I go h squared equals h equals. And then I make my table to bring back the expression within the parentheses. I'm basically taking the parentheses out of the equation. So I dot my x and circle it. So I have to add 3 first. That's 14. Then there is a dotted number. Remember to divide by that. So 14 divided by 7 is 2. We find the square root of 2. It's not 1. 1 times 1 is not 2. It's a decimal. Remember, double your parentheses if you want. So 1.41. But remember, we got to remember that could be the positive or the negative. Okay, so I put a 1 and dot it. 1 and dot it. So I add 3. So I take 1.41 plus 3. It's 4.41. And I don't need to divide because it's a 1. So x equals 4.41. Okay, now I do the same thing, but now my 1.41 is negative. Okay, 1.59. Now do you need to divide? Not really, because it's a 1. So x equals 1.59. Okay, now my next problem, there is no power here, so I'm not blocked. So I do the rainbows. I take 8 times x. You can put a 1 there. It's 8x. Plus, put the same operator. Then 8 times 4 is 32. Then we also have the minus 10 equals 78. Now dot the x and circle it. Now you have to undo your plus or minus, and you have 2 of them to undo. So first we'll start here, plus 10, plus 10. Then at the same time, before I figure that out, I need to minus 32, minus 32. Then I underline. So 78 plus 10 minus 32 is 56. And now my dotted numbers is an 8, so I'll need to divide 56 by 8, which is 7. So x equals 7. And I don't need a square root on that because there's no second power. Okay, and then on to the next page. Again, the block is on. So I need to, again, rewrite the equation with h to the second. So in front of the parentheses, I have 6. That goes in front of the h. And after the second power, I have a plus 2 equals 44. Okay, so I go h second equals h equals, because we're going to get h second by itself, and then we're going to find the square root for h. But you got to remember the table. It's right there for you. So x plus 7 equals x plus 7 equals. So I dot my h and circle it. Then I undo that, and that's 42. Now divide by your dotted number, because the opposite of multiply is divide. 42 divided by 6, so I have 7. And then I find the square root of the number 7. So second, your fourth key up. And I got 2.64. Now remember, that could be positive or negative, because a negative times a negative would also give you that positive 7. Okay, and 1 dot. That means the 1 dot means I don't need to divide, but I still want to circle it so I can visualize it. So I take 2.64 minus 7, negative 4.36. 36, not 7. It's just a 1, so x is equal to that. Minus 7, minus 7. Negative 9.64. And again, you don't need to divide. You have your answer right there because it's just a 1. Okay, again, the power's outside there, so the block is on. So I remove the parentheses, so that's h. It's going to have it to the second, 10 in front. After the second power, we run into the equals 200. Okay, so I'm going to get h second by itself and then get h by itself before I use my table where I use the x minus 5 equals and then x minus 5 equals. So I dot my h, circle it. There's no plus or minus, so I go straight to the dividing by 10. So 200 divided by 10 is 20. And then I find the square root of the number 20. Double it. 4.47. That's as close as you can get to finding a number times itself. That's 20. So 4.47, negative 4.47. And then from there, it's pretty much a walk. Okay. I add 5. Now it's like 4 plus 5, which is 9 with the 0.47. I do not need to divide by 1. I have my answer. Plus 5, plus 5. Negative 4.47 plus 5 is 0.53. And again, that's my answer because it's just a 1. So x equals 0.53. Okay, backside. Again, the block is on because the power's there, so you rewrite that equation with h to the second. You always put the second because that's why it's blocked. Okay, and you have a 7 in front. And then after the second, you don't have any adding or subtracting to that. It's equal to 56. So it's a much simpler looking equation. So x plus 3 equals x plus 3 equals. And then I find the h to the second. I don't add or subtract. I go straight to dividing. 56 divided by 7 is 8, and I find the number times itself. That's 8. It is not 4. Okay, 8 is not on that row of numbers, so 2.82. And again, you could have the positive or the negative. So I put the 1 in front. I won't have to divide then because it's a 1 minus 3. So what's 2.82 minus 3? Use a calculator. Negative 0.18. I don't need to divide by the 1. Okay. So I essentially have my answer. I mean, you can divide by the 1, but you're kind of wasting pencil lead. So what's negative 2.82 minus 3? Negative 5.82. And I'm not going to divide by 1. I have my answer. Okay, final problem. This is not blocked. You use your rainbows. So 3 times 1x is 3x, minus 3 times 2 is 6. Then add the 4, equals 16. So again, you dot your x, circle it. Now you have 2 operations to undo. First the plus 4. And then the minus 6, plus 6. Okay, so what's 16 minus 4 plus 6? 18. Okay, then we divide by our 3. And that's what x equals. 18 divided by 3 is 6.